Have you ever walked into work and suddenly felt like something wasn't normal anymore? Not bad. Not illegal. Not dramatic. Just emotionally wrong. Like everyone around you started talking the same way. Thinking the same way. Laughing at the same fake jokes. Repeating the same corporate phrases over and over again like they were programmed. And the weirdest part? Nobody else seems to notice it. Because when a workplace slowly becomes toxic enough, it stops feeling like a company. And starts feeling like a cult. If this video feels painfully relatable at any point, take a second to like the video, subscribe, and comment below with the phrase, "I knew something felt wrong." Because the truth is, millions of employees are silently experiencing this exact psychological manipulation every single day without realizing it. And the scariest part? Most toxic workplace cultures don't feel toxic in the beginning. They feel exciting, motivating, even empowering. Until one day you wake up and realize your job slowly replaced your personality. So let's talk about the 5 signs your workplace may secretly be operating like a cult. And once you see these signs, you'll never look at office culture the same way again. Sign 1, they call the company family. At first, this sounds harmless. Sometimes even comforting. Especially if you're new. Lonely. Trying to belong. But pay attention to how often toxic workplaces use emotional language to blur professional boundaries. We're family here. We all sacrifice together. We expect loyalty. We ride for each other. Sound supportive, right? But real families don't threaten your income if you say no. Real families don't make you feel guilty for taking a day off. And real families don't emotionally punish you for setting boundaries. That's the trap. Because once a company convinces you that work is family, they can slowly convince you that burnout is loyalty. That staying late proves commitment. That exhaustion means passion. That sacrificing your mental health makes you a team player. And slowly, you stop protecting yourself. You stop saying no. You stop noticing how emotionally drained you've become. Because cult-like workplaces survive by making employees emotionally dependent on the company identity. And the scariest part? People often defend the environment that's hurting them. If you've ever worked somewhere that made you feel guilty for having boundaries, comment below. Work is not family. And if this video already feels too real, share it with someone currently stuck in a toxic office culture. Because most people don't realize what's happening until it completely changes them. Sign 2, everyone acts the same. Have you ever noticed how some offices slowly erase individuality? Same personality. Same opinions. Same fake positivity. Same emotional mask. At first you think, wow, everyone here is so motivated. But eventually, it starts feeling disturbing. Because nobody questions anything. Nobody says what they really think. Nobody admits they're exhausted. Everyone performs happiness. Even when they're clearly emotionally collapsing inside. And over time, you unconsciously start doing it too. You begin filtering your thoughts. Hiding your emotions. Suppressing your personality just to fit in. That's psychological conditioning. And cult-like workplaces thrive on conformity. Because individuality is dangerous to systems built on emotional control. The moment employees start thinking independently, the illusion starts breaking. So toxic workplaces slowly train people to self-censor. Not through direct force, but through social pressure, emotional isolation, and fear of becoming the negative person. That's why people stay silent in toxic environments even when they know something is deeply wrong. Because they don't want to become outsiders. And honestly, that fear is incredibly human. If you've ever felt like your workplace slowly changed your personality, like the video right now. Because that emotional exhaustion is more common than people admit. Hashtag sign 3, you feel guilty for resting. This is one of the biggest red flags. In healthy workplaces, rest is normal. But in cult-like workplaces, rest feels like betrayal. You start feeling anxious every time you take a break, leave on time, ignore emails after work, or use your vacation days. And eventually, you begin apologizing for being human. That's not productivity. That's emotional manipulation. Because toxic workplaces often glorify overworking to create emotional loyalty. The employee who sacrifices the most becomes the good employee. Meanwhile, the person protecting their mental health becomes lazy, difficult, not committed enough. And slowly, your nervous system stops relaxing completely. Even at home. Even on weekends. Even late at night. That's why so many employees feel emotionally numb now. Because psychologically, their body never leaves survival mode. And if you've ever felt guilty for resting because of work, comment. I needed this video. Seriously. You are not weak for being exhausted. You are human. And if this conversation feels meaningful so far, subscribe for more deep workplace psychology and emotional workplace truths most people are afraid to talk about. Hashtag sign 4, the workplace becomes your entire identity. This one is terrifying because most people don't notice it happening. At some point, your job stops being something you do and becomes who you are. Your schedule revolves around work. Your emotions revolve around work. Your self-worth revolves around work. And without realizing it, you slowly disappear underneath your employee identity. That's why so many people feel empty after leaving toxic workplaces. Because they don't even know who they are anymore outside the company. And cult-like work environments encourage this intentionally. They want your attention, your loyalty, your emotional energy, your identity. Because emotionally dependent employees are easier to control. That's why these workplaces often encourage constant availability, after-hours bonding, forced team culture, and emotional overinvestment. The goal is simple. If your entire identity becomes the workplace, leaving becomes psychologically terrifying. Because now you're not just quitting a job. You're losing your routine, your social circle, your identity, and your emotional stability. That's why people stay trapped for years. Not because they love the company, but because psychologically, they no longer know who they are without it. Hashtag sign 5, you're afraid to speak honestly. This is the biggest sign of all. In healthy workplaces, people can disagree safely. But in toxic cult-like environments, honesty becomes dangerous. Employees become terrified of questioning leadership, expressing burnout, setting boundaries, or saying what they really feel. So everyone pretends to agree, pretends to be motivated, pretends to be okay. And eventually, the office becomes emotionally artificial. That's why some workplaces feel so psychologically disturbing. Because deep down, everyone knows the truth. But nobody feels safe enough to say it out loud. And honestly, that level of emotional suppression changes people permanently. It creates anxiety, burnout, emotional numbness, identity loss, and sometimes People don't even realize how much damage happened until they finally leave. So if this video made you realize something about your own workplace, take a moment right now and comment honestly. What's the most toxic thing your workplace normalized? I genuinely want to know. And if this video felt painfully relatable, share it with someone silently struggling in a toxic work environment. Because a lot of people think they're just bad employees, when really they've been psychologically trapped inside unhealthy workplace systems for years. And finally, if you want more deep workplace psychology, emotional realism, and cinematic corporate storytelling that exposes the hidden emotional truths behind modern work culture, make sure you subscribe. Because the reality is, some workplaces don't just drain your energy. They slowly reshape who you are as a person. And most people don't realize it until it's too late. See you next time.